Today we're going to talk about buying used camera gear, and I buy and sell used cameras and lenses all the time, and I've been actually meaning to make this video for quite a long time, but I just never got around to do it because there's so many different ways to buy used gear, so many different retailers, and depending on what you're looking for, your experiences will vary greatly. So I just couldn't make a video saying that this is how you do it, period. But I get a lot of questions about it, so I thought I'll put together some tips or some steps rather that you could follow when you're buying used gear. One thing to keep in mind though, this is not a video where I recommend you any specific cameras or lenses. I cannot address all the needs and wants of everyone in this one single video. But if you generally know what you're looking for and you're just wondering how to find the best deals, where to buy them, and if you need to worry about getting scammed, what to look for, what to avoid, and things like that, then this might be the right video for you. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So just like whenever you're buying anything or whenever you're making a big purchase, you should start with some research. In order to get the best deal on something, you need to understand what the value of the item is. So you can start by simply Googling or going on different websites like B&H, Amazon, Adorama, or eBay. And what you're gonna do is just get a clear understanding of how much the item that you're trying to buy is brand new and also used in various conditions. Because if you think about it, there are mainly two reasons why you'd want to buy a used item instead of a brand new one. One is maybe the item that you're trying to buy is so old that it's not even available brand new. And two is when there's enough price difference between brand new and used, enough so that you might be willing to buy something that's maybe not cosmetically perfect, or maybe the price difference is enough so that you are okay with something not coming with some good seller warranty or a great return policy. Obviously, how much you want to spend or save on your camera gear is entirely up to you. But if you're watching this video, you're probably not someone who has more money than sense. So the best way to find the best deals is for you to do your research so you understand exactly how much the item is worth and how much you're willing to pay for it and how much of the quirks and risks that you're willing to deal with to save more money. Now that we know the value of the item, we need to decide where to buy it from. And like I said, there are so many different options, but generally speaking, there are two ways to buy used camera gear. One is to buy from a bigger or more reputable brands like B&H or Adorama. Amazon, I guess, fits in this category. And two is to buy from individual sellers on places like eBay. Note that I'm categorizing them as retailers versus individual sellers, not retailers versus eBay. And the reason for that is eBay is not exactly just a collection of individual sellers. eBay is a giant pool of a lot of individual sellers and also a lot of big retailers and professional sellers. So you can't really categorize eBay as one thing. So whenever I mention eBay in this video, just know that I mean individual sellers on eBay, not necessarily eBay as a whole company. So buying from bigger retailers versus buying from individual sellers, there are pros and cons on both sides, but if you just compare the prices, generally, not always, but generally, you can find better deals from eBay than from these bigger retailers. And the reason for that is pretty simple. With these bigger companies, whenever they sell something, they need to leave profit. And that's not them being greedy, that's just their job. They buy something for a certain amount of money and they sell it for more money so they can make profit. With eBay, most people aren't trying to make a profit, they are just trying to sell their stuff for a little lesser amount than what they bought them for, either just to upgrade their gear or to liquidate their stuff so they can get some cash. And they have to stay quite reasonable with their pricing because they are basically competing with hundreds of other sellers on eBay. And there's one more benefit when you buy from individual sellers, and that is photos. When you're buying used items from big retailers, most of the times they will not have photos of the actual items that they're selling. They may have some vague descriptions like new or fair conditions, but that can be pretty subjective. With eBay, with most listings, you get to see the photos of the actual items. I mean, sure, sometimes the quality of some of these photos can be questionable, but usually there are so many options available, you don't always have to buy from listings with terrible photos and descriptions. So then what are some of the benefits when you buy from bigger retailers? Well, even though you don't usually get to see the photos before you purchase them, if there are any issues or if the item is in slightly worse conditions than what you expected, it's probably easier with bigger retailers to return your items and get your money back than you would with individual sellers. I'm not saying it's impossible with eBay, but easier is the key word here. And also when you buy from these retailers, it's probably a lot less likely that you'll receive something that's defective or something that doesn't work as they should, because you're dealing with a lot of professionals who probably check their stuff before they sell. With eBay, even if you're dealing with someone who's extremely friendly and helpful, they may not have the same level of camera knowledge as some of these professionals, and sometimes they may not realize that something's broken with the item. One time I bought a camera from this one guy on eBay, and he was very, very friendly and professional and responsive. But the camera that I received from him could not recognize my memory cards, and if I bought that from a retailer, I could have just returned it and gotten my money back, and that would have been the end of the story. But because I bought it from an individual, I had to prove to him and explain to him why the camera was broken. He was not aware that the camera was broken when he sold it to me, but he eventually accepted my return and I was able to get my money back. But for me to do that, I had to troubleshoot the camera myself. I had to figure out what was wrong with it myself, and I had to prove to him, I had to show him what was broken and what needed to be fixed. If I couldn't do that, I probably would have had to spend a lot of money on the repair myself, probably as much as what I spent on the whole camera. I mean, mind you, things like this happen very, very rarely, but just because I buy so many different items, I've had to deal with situations like this quite a lot. So, something to keep in mind when you're buying from individual sellers, because anybody can get unlucky time to time. And when you buy used items from these bigger companies, sometimes even used items can come with some sort of seller warranty that you would never get from individual sellers. So for example, even after that return period, if your camera or your lens suddenly stops working for some reason, you might still be able to get your money back or get it repaired or replaced for free. Normally, I don't care all that much about things like warranty because modern cameras and lenses are very reliable and they don't just randomly break unless you do some physical damage to them. Sometimes things can get damaged during shipping or on a flight, and I've actually had to take advantage of some of these warranties myself, and over the years they actually have saved me a few $100s. So when it comes to things like cosmetic conditions or the risks of buying used products, everyone will have different levels of tolerance. Are you the sort of person who gets easily bothered by marks and scuffs on things? Or are you the type of person who thinks that adds to the character? Is your goal to save as much money as possible, or would you be okay with paying a little extra to reduce the risks? There's obviously no one right answer, but the lesson here is no matter where you buy from, nothing will be ever 100% risk-free. I've had plenty of good and bad experiences from both sides, both buying new and used items. But what's really important for you is for you to understand your rights and the risks, so you would know how to deal with your problems should you face any. So what are some of the things to look for or some of the things to avoid when you're buying used items? If you're buying from eBay, a good place to start is the seller feedback. It's just a simple rule. If you're dealing with someone who's sold hundreds of items with close to 100% positive feedback, then it's probably reasonable enough to believe that they're not just trying to scam people or that they'll completely ruin their reputation just to win some money off of you. But there are always new people on eBay as well, people who have never sold any items before, and the risk might be slightly greater with them. But you can't really blame them for being new. We all gotta start somewhere. If their listings seem reasonable and if their prices don't seem too good to be true, I think they're generally okay. Once in a while, you might see some listings from a seller without any feedback from some country far, far away from you, with a product half of the price of what they should be. I probably don't need to say this. If something looks off, just don't buy it. When it comes to the actual cameras or lenses, there are some things you need to look for as well. With lenses, the most important thing is to check if the glass elements are clean and if there are any cracks, signs of water damage, or mold. And you also need to thoroughly check the listings to see if there are any mentions of issues or mechanical problems that can't be shown on photos. In this day and age, sellers have to be very, very honest about the items that they sell. And after you buy something, if you discover any issues that weren't mentioned on the original listing, then 99% of the time you'll be able to get your money back. With used camera bodies, a lot of people look for shutter counts. This is a bit like the mileage on your car. Most modern digital cameras keep track of how many shutter actuations it's done, and the higher the number obviously means the more it's been used. Some sellers might list this information, some sellers might not. They're not required to. But if you ask the seller directly about the information, they'll be more than happy to find that out for you. For me personally, I usually pay more attention to the overall physical condition of the camera rather than the shutter count numbers. Because if you think about it, a camera could have only 20,000 shutter counts, but then could look like it was handled by a toddler. And some cameras could have over 100,000 shutter counts, but then it could look like it was properly maintained and handled by a professional. Cameras with higher shutter counts will be usually cheaper, and it will give you some more room to negotiate perhaps. And if you ever find a camera that you really like in a decent shape at a decent price, but if the shutter count's a little high, what you can also do is you can call your local camera store and ask them how much it might cost to get the shutter replaced on that camera. So if you save enough money at the beginning, you can just enjoy the camera until it dies, then get the shutter replaced then. That's probably not a bad way to do it either. And let's be realistic, if you're not a professional photographer, you're gonna be shooting a few thousand photos a year at most. And it's gonna be a while until you fill up that shutter count on your camera. So I'm usually okay with buying cameras with higher shutter counts. I think it's an okay way to save some money up front. And one more thing to think about when buying used cameras is when to buy. And this actually applies when you're shopping for new cameras as well. If you've been into cameras and photography for a while, you might have realized that the camera prices fluctuate quite a bit. Sometimes the manufacturers or retailers may have some special promotions, discounts, rebates, bundle deals. These usually happen during holiday seasons, and sometimes it's completely random. Also, when a newer model comes out or if a competitor releases something better, that's also when you might see some discounts, so that's another thing to look out for. And this is also when you can sometimes get better deals from major retailers than from individual sellers on eBay. Although the prices on eBay are usually lower, they don't fluctuate as much when these promotions are happening. For example, I'm using a Sony a6600 to record this video right now, and this camera is about $1,400 brand new, and I bought it last year used for about $1,200, which was a great deal. But then about a month later I bought it. B&H was having a promotion and the brand new camera was about $1,200. So if I just waited a month, I could have bought a brand new one for the same price, but nothing I can do about it now. But then now the price is back up to $1,400, so I'm all of a sudden happy again. So this is when your research becomes important again. And if you're just doing photography as a hobby, and if you don't need a camera right this second, it's probably not a bad idea to shop around for a few weeks. But one thing I do want to say about that is don't wait around too much. Don't get too hung up on trying to find the best deals, because I've seen so many people just waiting and waiting, hoping the price would go down or hoping something newer and better would come out, instead of being able to actually enjoy a camera now. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. You being able to enjoy your camera, not having to worry about where to get it from, if you should get it new or used. If having to worry too much about how to buy your camera is stopping you from actually using a camera, then you're probably not doing this right. Which brings me to the next point. If you're just getting into photography, whether you get a brand new or a used camera, if you're really serious about learning and growing and improving as a photographer, your first camera probably will not be your last. As you grow as a photographer and as technologies improve, your needs will change over time and there will always be something better to upgrade to. But the good news is, you can always sell your used gear just as easily as buying them. And here's the cool part. Used camera prices don't just constantly go down indefinitely at the same rate. Just like used cars, they lose some initial value and then they stabilize for a few years. If you buy a $500 camera, the value of that camera won't just go down and down and down until it hits zero. It will usually go down to about 400 and maybe 300, and it will stay there for a very, very long time. And with used cameras, because you saved so much money at the beginning, after 2 or 3 years of ownership, when you resell that camera, you won't lose as much money. And lenses actually lose their value even slower than camera bodies. On many occasions, I bought used lenses and then sold them for either equal or greater amount than what I bought them for. So going back to my last point, it's okay to spend some time to shop around for the best deals, or just to have some time to think about it before you make any big purchases. But don't worry around too much. Get a camera in your hands right now, learn how to use it, enjoy it, so you can have a better understanding of the limitations and capabilities of your camera. So when the time comes for an upgrade, you'll know exactly what to look for. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you for watching. And if you have any more questions about buying used gear, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to get to them all. And I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.